Welcome to canning class for green beans, you guys. We're doing green beans tonight, and look at this. I've got a bunch of them here. I got these at Sprouts Farmers Market. They were not on sale. I'm sorry to tell you. They were $1.79 a bag. That was a pound. And I bought 3 of those bags, which cost me about $10. I bet you can find green beans for less than $1 a pound. So you just want to shop around. But what I've done with the ones in that bowl is I've already cut off the woody stem of each part, except for into this, I have another container over here. You can see it over here. I need to cut off the woody stems there. This one's already done, so we can start putting these into the jars right now. Yep, and feel free to chat as we go. Just doing a little class here at my house tonight. We try to do one every Tuesday night. And I want to make sure that you can see the whole setup here. Hello! We got Josie here and the little baby Miguel, and we're trying to get a fire going. I'm not great at that, but it's right here by us. We'll see if we can get it going here. Okay, I've got my canning funnel here, and I'm just gonna start stuffing these jars with the green beans. Now, one thing you can do if you want to is you could cut all these in half. You could do a lot of it at a time if you wanted to just kind of cut them down so they weren't such big pieces. But it really doesn't matter. It depends. Sometimes if you're doing a meal like a shepherd's pie, you might want a shorter piece. But if you're just eating green beans like as a side with your family, you just want them whole like that. It's not a big deal. But they do fit in the jar better when you cut them down. Okay, so we want to really pack them in there and get as many as we can in there. And this is such a quick process. I think you'll find that if you're starting off canning, green beans are the way to go. They are just the easiest and the fastest to can. And here's what I found about my own food storage. We found one with a woody stem on it. We just cut that tip off, okay? Is I mostly have everything but vegetables in my food storage. That does not make sense for a health coach to have mostly things but vegetables in her food storage. So I know for sure I'm gonna want greens. Come the time that the stores don't have food anymore, I'm going to want to be eating my greens. And so keep that in mind, like what vegetables can I keep that I will eat and that I can jar and can. So if you love carrots, you can do carrots. I don't know anyone who doesn't like carrots. Things like kale and spinach, those are things you want to freeze dry. They don't really can unless you're canning like creamed spinach, which I don't know why you would. I haven't seen anything for that yet. But you see how I packed that in there? I'm going to finish the rest of the jars, and then we'll meet back up. Hey, we are back, and we got 7 whole jars stuffed full of green beans. And I still have probably a half a pound left. That would probably stuff another jar, maybe jar and a half. Let me see. Yeah, maybe 1 to 2 jars there. Okay, but my canner only holds 7 jars, so that's why I was hoping to at least get 7. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to take each jar of green beans and we're going to add like a half tablespoon of Himalayan salt, like this, just to the top of it. That's just going to flavor them up a bit so when we open it up, they're not so bland. They have a little bit of flavor to them. Do you like pepper too? You could do pepper, or you could do garlic. You could really add any seasonings you want, but usually we're throwing green beans in with our recipe, so I don't want them like too garlicky or too anything else until I like play with it in a recipe sometimes. I can see right here that I could add a little bit more there. Let's take a look at some of these. These have the woody stems on them. So I'm just gonna cut those off. And just start stuffing. I want to stuff as high as I can and really get a good tight fit into these jars. I think a good goal for green beans would be 50 jars. If you could do 50 jars of green beans and just say, you know what, that's my year's supply of vegetables for a year. I've got green beans ready to go. You would be sitting pretty good. Okay, our next step is to pour hot boiling water into each of these jars. So I'm going to go get the hot water ready. We are back with the very next step, which is to put hot water into your jars. So all we have to do here fill up these jars with some hot water. Just to the top there, just like that, leaving a 1-inch headspace where you see the kind of rings around there. Just that's your 1-inch headspace there. So just fill
Do
them
all
up.
of the beans have to be completely submerged though?
Yeah,
Or
we're
could they
gonna
be sticking out?
I think they'll be okay, sticking out too, because once they cook, they go down, they
Okay.
scrunch down. Okay, we've got water in all of our jars, so now the next thing to do is to wipe the rims off. I like to use some vinegar, so I just dip a little cloth in that vinegar, a little paper towel,
Did you get
and
the right reading ID?
I just go around all the rings like this.
It's just, what was that? I'm sorry, with just.
Yep, that was just some vinegar. We're just putting vinegar, and we're gonna put the rest of this vinegar in that pot of boiling water over there that we're gonna put our jars into, because it doesn't cloud up the jars. It keeps them nice and pretty and shiny. So nothing goes to waste here. Okay, this is called a magnet to get your metal lids out. And this cool thing, look at this cool thing. You want to get the air bubbles out, and so this other end can go kind of in the sides and get all the air bubbles out so that your beans fit better, and you could fit more beans in there probably after doing that. But you can kind of see how some air bubbles come up when I do this. It brings them all to the surface so we don't have any oxygen in there. We want to make it good and packed in there, no oxygen, so we can actually do the cooking and not mold or do anything it's not supposed to. There, with this side, look at that. That's so cool. I was using my hands this whole time, but this metal thing is awesome. And then I just put it on there. Put it on there. Okay. Okay, the question was, do you need the canning gripper? The answer is no. You can just put it in there, honestly, you don't need it. But I love it because when these jars come out hot, there's no way I'm touching that. I'd have to get a cloth to get that out if I didn't have a canning gripper, and this just makes it easy. And you could probably pick one of these up for $2 to $4, okay? So just consider. Now, as you can see, the water, I don't know if you can see actually, but the water came like almost up to the top. I'm not crazy about that. I'm gonna try to get a ladle and just take out a spoonful of that, because that will be too high and maybe could cause some spilling over. So give me let me grab a ladle. I got too excited about the water here. Ladle a couple of these. Put those jars in. That's okay. We'll try it and see. Okay, now I'm gonna put the lid on it. Here's the lid. We're gonna take the pound thing off. Stick it in my pocket for now. I'm gonna come over here and line this up, and then push these handles together, and now we're ready to go. Okay, so now what we do, it's sealed, and this will start to shoot steam up, and at that point I'll set a timer for 10 minutes because I gotta have 10 minutes of constant steam coming up. And you'll want to notice that on any pressure cooker that doesn't have a thermometer gauge. You'll always have a steamer thing here, and you'll need to notice for 10 minutes. Once you see it coming, you do not leave your pressure cooker. You stay close by. You gotta watch it. It's on a medium heat, but I will be turning this down. I got it on medium because I want to get this guy going. I want to get the steam coming up. I want to get this, I think it's called a nipple. Someone called it, I don't like that it's called a nipple. If there's another name for that thing that pops up, let me know, okay? But that's got to pop up, and that will tell me that this whole thing is sealed. And then at that point, after 10 minutes of steam coming out, I'm gonna put this guy on. And everyone's pressure cooker comes with a poundage. Some will say 5 pounds, some will say 10, some will say 15. Depends on your elevation. If you're not very high in elevation, probably 10 pounds, okay? But just look at the charts and see what you need. So once this steams up, I set the timer 10 minutes, I put this on, and then it's gonna cook it's gonna start dancing. Remember, it's gotta jiggle around. And then once I see it jiggle around, I lower the temp, I set the timer for 25 minutes, because that's all the green beans need, and then they're done, okay? And I'll show you as we go. All right, it is kind of hard to see, but you can kind of catch glimpses of it. It's going, the steam's coming out. The nipple in the back is not up yet, but it's coming up. And we're gonna set a timer for 10 minutes and watch this steam just come on up. So that's what we're looking for, is that steady stream of steam. Here we go. Okay, so we've had 10 minutes of a steady flow. We've got the nipple up in the back. We're gonna put the poundage on now, just like that. We're gonna wait for this to dance around, and then we're gonna set that timer for 25 minutes. I'll be back to show you what happens. Okay, so look, you can hear this back there, and you can see it, it's dancing.
Is that how fast we want it?
We don't want it that fast dancing. We're gonna turn our heat down. I've got the heat turned down to the lowest setting now. So this is it's slowing down the dance now. But you wanna kind of keep the dance going. If you don't have a thermometer. If you do have a thermometer, just watch your thermometer. Depending on your elevation, I don't let mine go above 15. It's usually between 10 and 15. I try to keep it around 10 on this gas burner.
So
it doesn't always stay there. This is dancing enough because I have a pressure gauge and I can see it.
But it's like barely moving?
It's barely moving. That would be good, okay? So if you had one of these pressure cookers without the temperature gauge, I would try to keep this where it was kind of still dancing around, like back and forth, and keep it there, a slow movement for the 25 minutes, okay? So now we're gonna set the timer 25 minutes. Okay, I have to tell a quick story here. First of all, I was holding my friend's baby as we were talking and waiting for the beans. I didn't check it, and when I came back to check it, it was below 10 pounds of pressure, 10 on the thermometer. It was like at 9 or 8, and I know you can't go below 10. And so I've got to start my clock all over again, keeping it above that poundage. So 10 to 15 is where I usually stick it out. So I'm going to go ahead and reset the timer for 25 minutes and get this process going again. But let me tell you what happened. This is the exciting story. I'm holding her baby, and it's dark out here in my backyard, and there's lots of trees. And I live in Arizona, and we don't see many big birds, but we heard something in the trees. And I thought, maybe it's a bat. And she goes, what if it's an owl? And so we shine our light up there, and I can't see it. And she says she sees some feathers, and I don't even believe it because I never see those kind of birds out here. And all of a sudden, it's an owl, and it swoops down, almost like it's gonna grab the baby from me. But I just kind of picked the baby, and I just turned my body. It didn't get super close, but I turned my body, and she screamed, and we ran into the house. It was a full-on owl. Those things are dangerous. They're after you. They're out for blood. All right, but on a side note, going away from that craziness, now I'm full-on alert, making sure I don't see that owl come back around, because I will whack him with this broom or this rake if I see that happen again. He better not come down after any of the babies or kids around here. We've got the thing dancing. I think it's important to kind of keep it at the point where it's dancing, but not too much, okay? Just like I told you before. So we don't need to turn the burner too low. In the winter temps like this, it's okay to keep it up a little higher than the lowest point. In the summer here, I turn it to the lowest point because it's hot already, and it keeps cooking like that. All right, so here we go. We're setting the timer again for 25 minutes, and we're gonna keep it above that 10-pound pressure. All right, just wanted to show you here. Just got done canning some green beans, and look at those guys just bubbling in there, cooking themselves up really good. So these will have a shelf life. Some people say 2 years. I've heard 5 years. I'll probably start rotating through them after a year or two. See if I can get through them and see what they taste like. But we're just gonna label these guys and get them on our shelf. Happy canning. All right, something I wanted to just mention to you guys is I checked all of my green bean jars in the morning here, and sadly only 2 of the 7 sealed, and that's never happened to me. But I bought these new lids. I mean, look at this one. It's kind of deformed here. I bought these lids on Amazon. They're no particular brand. They were just the cheapest ones, and they don't work well. You have to actually purchase the Ball brand, B-A-L-L, or the Kerr brand, K-E-R-R, or just a reputable brand. I just bought the cheapest ones, and obviously look at it's like warped and weird. They're not all like that, but they don't seal. And so now I gotta go check every single jar that I've ever used these lids on, because when you press down on them, they feel like they're sealed. All of them do. But then when you take the ring off and you lift this up, it just lifts right off. It's not suctioned on there. So I've got to go check every jar. I'm actually going to run these one more time in just a water bath canner and just see if we can get that thing to suction. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and freeze dry these green beans. They're not going to go to waste, and I'm not going to have to hurry and eat them. I do have another method, and that's my freeze dryer, thank goodness. But for canning, this is disappointing, you guys. It's super disappointing to buy supplies for your canning needs and then they don't work. And you can't even get like the good brands right now because they're so backstocked that they're not sending any more product out. So if you can even find Ball or Kerr, do it, grab them. But I'm telling you, these cheap ones just don't do it. So don't look for the cheapest ones on Amazon like I did. You know, they look like they would work. They don't work well. Okay, here we are. I had to rerun these green beans, 4 jars of them, because these 4 did not seal. So what I did is I just heated up my pressure cooker again, and once the water was hot, you know, I put these jars, and they weren't super cold or anything. They had been in the house, but I did put them in there, and I put the lid on, and I waited for the steam to come out. I didn't wait 10 minutes. I just put the pressure gauge on there after I saw the steam coming out. I let the pressure get up to just about 10, 11, 12, 13 pounds of pressure, and then I just turned it off. I didn't go the whole 25 minutes. Don't do it that way if you feel like that's not safe to do. I'm going to keep my eye on these, but 3 of the 4 did seal. The other one did not. So I know that it is those lids for sure. I did order some new lids. I'll be trying those. They aren't Ball or Kerr. They're a different brand, but they looked to be a lot better than the cheapest ones you can find on Amazon. So I'll let you know how those go when they get here. So what I'm going to do is I have 2 jars that are not sealed. Okay, let's see. 3, 6. I'm trying to remember. I have 2 jars not sealed that are going to go onto a freeze dryer tray right here. So I'm just going to drain these off. Get them out. And that pressure cooker really cooked them up soft. So when we freeze dry them, they'll just turn to a crunchy thing we could either snack on or rehydrate. Now, I know many of you do not have the option to freeze dry if something doesn't go through on your canned goods. Well, I'm aware that not everybody has a freeze dryer. Okay, that one's sealed. So what you can do is just put them in your fridge. They'll probably last quite a while in there, and just know that you have to go through them. That's your only option if you can't run them and get them sealed up. Or put different lids on them if you can. and just try water bath canning them. You've already pressure cooked them, and I know that's what you're supposed to do with a low acid food like that. I can't remember if it's low acid or high acid. I cannot remember with green beans, but because of green beans, you do have to pressure cook them. And if you've already sent them through the pressure cooker, maybe just to seal them up, we just water bath can to get that seal on. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not. I know there's very specific rules when you do this kind of stuff, but this is what I have found works for me. I have had to run a couple things to get things to seal, and I've opened it up maybe a year or two later, and it's just fine. But you have to use your own judgment there and test it and see that there's nothing growing on it. Of course, if it's gone bad, it's gone bad. Chuck it, okay? But that's what I do. So I'm just gonna get the other jar, put it on here, throw those in the freeze dryer today, and we won't waste them. They'll still be amazing to eat. But that's what I'm gonna do, and get some better lids.